Welcome to the Ticket Podcast. The Ticket Podcast is a motivational and educational podcast created to inspire people to chase their dreams and achieve their goals. We sell tickets to health, wealth, and happiness. The only question left to ask is, what's your ticket going to be? This episode of the Ticket Podcast is brought to you by the Sports Business and Leadership Association. Members of the SBLA believe that charity is a contact sport. The SBLA is a 501c3 nonprofit that provides underprivileged children unique sports experiences. You can visit the SBLA website at www.nationalsbla.com and visit the gift shop to wear your support. Today's ticket is with Charley Hughlett. Charley is a good friend of mine and the starting long snapper and team captain for the Cleveland Browns. All right, everybody, welcome to the Ticket Podcast. An awesome guest today we have on the show. Personally, I couldn't be more thrilled because he's not only the starting and highest paid long snapper in the entire NFL for the Cleveland Browns, but he's one of my best friends in the whole world, and he absolutely is. Even better than a best friend, he's an amazing father to a little boy that's probably going to be the next generation of hybrid long snappers, and then after that, he has a baby girl on the way. So, Charley Hughlett, welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Thanks, Con. How you guys doing?
Doing well. So, Charley, take us through back in the day. We're doing the podcast out of here in Tampa. You grew up not far from here, in Hillsboro. Take us back to Charley Hughlett. As a young athlete and as a youngster running these streets, how did that look like?
It's kind of rough, probably. I grew up right in Seminole Heights. Grew up playing football, baseball. Did some track and wrestling. Eventually got to Hillsboro High School, and everything was going okay. I mean, it definitely, I wasn't like the natural born best, player on the team, but just worked really hard and eventually got a walk-on spot up at UCF.
Char, looking back, we're gonna dive into some deeper things, but just looking at where you are now, would you have ever thought that this, the shoes, the cleats you're in now, would you have ever dreamt that or predicted that when you were, back here in Hillsboro, age, 10 through 17?
I'm definitely not. I mean, I was just never one of those people who thought they were going to be an NFL player. I mean, for me, the goal was always college. Just if I could get a free education in sports, I mean, for me, that was the goal. So that's really as far as my head went with football, and I kind of just I kind of got lucky, but at the same time, just really worked hard and just kept going through a lot of tough times.
Even with, was football the main priority, Char, or what did you, were there, was education a high thing on your list? Was it other sports? Was it just chasing around the girl? Like what, I guess, at a young age, what was your main focus?
It was, I loved football. I mean, from a young age, I loved sports. I loved doing that, but that, like I said, that was never what I thought I was going to do, as an adult. The first thing I really wanted to be was a dentist, actually. So I was always, it's crazy, thinking back on it. But, I loaded up on the science classes, and even through college, I loaded up on the science classes. I mean, I was trying to go to dental school. So it wasn't until, my junior year that I thought, football could actually be something. Junior year in college, that is. So, my priorities were pretty academic with – like I said, sports just kind of being a means to the end of paying for college.
No doubt. So you would have been operating on yourself today then, huh? A little earlier.
Yes. Well, hopefully, I don't know how that works, but at least I would have had a lot more knowledge of what the heck they're doing.
We're blessed to have Charley speaking today. He had some dental stuff, so he's talking back to his normal self, not numbed up. So
yeah, I was kind of worried. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do it today, but luckily this Novocaine wore off for me.
Charley, how did you become a long snapper? Obviously that's not a position most people play. How did you become a long snapper?
So that's something that, I mean, it kind of fell into my lap a little bit. So, I mean, I did it in high school, and that was just kind of out of, I remember there was like one day the season was about to start. We didn't have a long snapper yet. The coach was like, "You got long arms. Why don't you try and throw this thing back?" So I did it, and I ended up doing it in high school for, I think, 2 years. And so then, as I was being recruited by colleges, that was something I knew I did. And my true freshman year, I went to UCF as a walk-on, like I said, as a walk-on tight end. And at UCF, our long snapper had graduated the year before, and then the new guy that was supposed to replace him just quit like a week before camp started. Wow. So they had like 4 or 5 guys they threw out there just to try to, like, when they were scrambling. And I ended up getting the job, and from that point on, I never played tight end again. I mean, I remember the head coach called me into his office, and he was telling me that I'd won the job and they're going to put me on full scholarship. And, I was just ecstatic. I was getting a scholarship, and, I was traveling. And then he said, "You're not going to tight end meetings anymore." So I didn't really know what that meant. But, a couple of months later, I realized, oh, crap, I'm never going to play tight end again. But, it worked out, and, I'm really glad it happened with that.
Yeah, it's funny is playing for Ohio State. I mean, I saw how our guys came through, and I actually played with the current starting long snapper for the Rams, Jake McQuaid, and okay. I bet it was I could assume it was some of a story like that. Kind of fell into the position because you were doing that along with other things, and then you were good at it, and it just stuck. That was kind of the way it was at Ohio State with guys that were very good, like Jake McQuaid.
Right. I mean, for me, it was always just. I was terrible at it at first, and I just kind of stuck with it and knew I needed to get better at it. And I'm just kind of really competitive with myself. And if I was going to be a snapper, I was going to be the best thing snapper I could be. So, like I said, it just ended up working out.
I was the long snapper for my little kids, like team, like Pop Warner and middle school. And all I remember is I was the only one that could do it. So they had me doing it. I was playing quarterback and I was a long snapper. That's how stupid it was. But I remember that the pads would choke you out. Yeah. Because when you were a little kid, they were so big back then. Like the jerseys were loose, so like the shoulder pads would go down and they would literally choke you out. You had to snap the ball before you blacked out. And I was starting quarterback and long snapper on my little league teams and the middle school teams.
Trying to go for it.
That's right.
They actually start making shoulder pads for long snappers, so they don't choke you out.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, no. In high school, I remember feeling like that. Like they were. I mean, it's really hard to snap without like the long snapper pads. But yeah, they've got. I mean, they barely protect your chest or anything like that. I mean, you got a huge a lot of room for your neck and stuff like that. But you actually have a pretty good range of motion.
That's wild. And then I remember being. I'm 33, so I'm a little bit older than you guys. And I just remember being a little kid with the giant shoulder pads that I shouldn't have had because I was playing quarterback anyway. Yeah. But I had giant shoulder pads. Then I had one of those old school helmets. And then I think that I had one of the newer chin straps that was like plastic on the bottom and looked cool. I don't think the helmets were designed for those though. So the pads, just choking. Yeah, literally, the pads and the chin strap are choking you.
I thoroughly remember that in high school. I mean, that's exactly how I was in high school.
Yeah. So I have to ask you. So I'm from Ohio. Connor's from Ohio, obviously, and I moved down to Florida about 7 years ago. My wife's from Florida. Connor and I both love Ohio. Both love Cleveland. What is your? Salt of the earth people, tough people, hardworking people. The people in Cleveland just are some of the salt of the earth, toughest, best people you're ever going to meet in your life. What has been your thoughts of Ohio and Cleveland and just the people in general?
The people have been absolutely amazing. I mean, they're, like you said, they're some of the hardest working, nicest people. There are fans. I mean, if anybody knows Browns fans, I mean, they're diehard, and they sure as heck have been through a lot of losing. So I commend them for that. But no, honestly, I mean, Christy and my wife are just talking about, just how much better mannered people are here up in Ohio. And, it's really refreshing. I mean, people are just great people up here.
Absolutely. It's one of the best, that's for sure. The motherland, as we like to call it, Char, the motherland. Char, talk about, your transition, because one thing I want to talk about today was just, you've had I guess to be honest, majority of folks who have made it to the league, everybody has a story, and you definitely have a story. And so, kind of before we get that, go back to when you moved officially to long snapper, versus tight end. How was that transition? Both, physically as like, this is a new position for you. It's a new, basically new job opportunity, new, every position, every play, you have different responsibilities. Really from a holistic, football player standpoint, and then also mentally, like the transition, right? I mean, how was that? Obviously getting on scholarship was great, but how was the transition both physically and mentally?
Well, I mean, mentally, like out on the field, or just kind of in life in general.
I guess, yeah, more in life in general.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I was kind of scared to death. I mean, it was go from high school football to, we're playing, Miami, we're playing, we're playing big time schools, we're playing big time college football. So I was kind of I was nervous. I mean, long snapping, until you get comfortable doing it, I mean, it's kind of, mentally it can be, pretty nerve wracking. So honestly, I was really stressed out by my freshman year, and, here I am, I'm transitioning to, being a long snapper. Just like you said, I wasn't really comfortable doing it. To be honest, I was terrible at it, and I'm getting, chewed out by my college coaches, and then I'm going to class. I'm just transitioning to living life on my own. And, that was a really tough year. Obviously time went on. I kind of just put my head down, got through it. And, I wouldn't say it was quite my sophomore year. Maybe halfway through my sophomore year, I started getting a lot more comfortable. I was more comfortable, living on my own. I was more comfortable with the academic workload and balancing that with school. And over time, I got better at snapping. So the coaches kind of got off my case a little bit. So it just took time and work and just kind of, having to just put your head down and grind through it.
So putting your head down and grinding through it. And obviously, Charlie, you went on to have an incredible career there, which led to life after. But going into UCF, you mentioned you weren't on scholarship going there, and then afterwards you were an undrafted free agent. How did you prepare, and how did you just prepare every day, knowing that that there was still more ball for you left to play? How did you keep that motivation? How did you keep kind of grinding, like you just said?
Well, I mean, it was. So, I mean, for, long snappers, there's one per team. So, getting in is tough. And I knew that coming out of college. I mean, it was like, that's great. All these scouts are watching me. A lot of scouts are, writing good things about me and stuff like that. But I knew there's a huge difference between getting into camp and then making a 53-man roster. I knew that. And, my confidence level, I guess, coming out of college, I was kind of like, yeah, it might happen. I'll do my best. We'll see. And then once I got there, I realized I could actually do it. So my confidence rose, and that was probably my first training camp. I realized I could do it. And, it was seeing that you could do it, proving it to yourself that really built my confidence. Like I said, I didn't have that much confidence coming out of college thinking I could make it until I actually got there and realized I could. And, that was the difference maker for me.
Yeah, that's a huge. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a huge one that in common theme, just talking to different folks on the podcast, like confidence, right? So Char, what do you think it took to, I guess, get that confidence and then maintaining it? It's like, because for me, confidence is not like, it's one thing to have it, but it's almost like any other skill, right? You have to continuously refine it. You have to continuously make sure that you have it and that you're pursuing it. How important is confidence, and how did you get it?
Just by proving it to myself every day. I mean, and like you said, like a lot of people, I think mistake confidence is something people just have or don't have. I think that's, completely wrong. Confidence is something that's developed, and you got to, just do it every day. And I feel like the biggest thing for me is, working hard at something built my confidence. So if I snap the ball perfect 100 times a day, I knew I could do it one time, in a stadium. That's what built my confidence, was just putting in the reps, doing it time after time. And just over time, you put in enough reps where you get out there and you can do it just because you've done it so many times already.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess confidence being one shot. Just with all the guys, I mean, you've competed at the highest levels. Obviously, you work with a lot of confidence dudes. Both David and I, we come from football as well, where if you're not confident, you're in trouble from a million different aspects.
Yeah.
So, what are some other aspects or some other characteristics, qualities, Charlie, that you notice in some of the top performing guys in the NFL that you compete with on a daily basis?
Well, I guess we've kind of named a lot of them. I mean, for me, it's confidence. It's hard work. I mean, if you're not a hard worker, there's like that old saying. It's like, hard work beats talent, or talent beats hard work, and talent doesn't work hard, or however it goes. And that couldn't be truer. I mean, it's like in high school, sure, you see the guy who's like the most gifted guy, and you're competing against him, and he's whipping everybody's butt, but over time, if that guy's not working hard, everybody's going to not only catch him, but surpass him. So I think, honestly, just working hard, persistence was huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't, we kind of touched on it, but it wasn't like I made my first NFL squad. Like I was cut 9 times before I finally made a 53. And it was just time and time again, the hard work, which, built the confidence, which, led me to believe that I belonged in the NFL, which helped me persist through being cut so many times. So it was just, if you have, the hard work is, I think, the first thing, which, like I said, leads to being more confident in everything you do. And then that's going to help you being persistent through all the tough times.
Charlie, could you just elaborate on that one point? I mean, and I wanted to ask you that before you brought it up anyway, but being cut 9 times. I mean, right now you're sitting here today talking to us in probably the most stable position of any long snapper in the NFL, in an incredible position. But you were cut 9 times before you got there. Tell us about how did you maintain the belief in yourself that if you kept trying, you were going to attain your goal and not give up? What was your mindset of continue to move forward?
It was like I said, when I got to camps and I saw who I was competing against. This, I don't know if this shocks people or not, but there's a lot of politics that can go into football, and long snappers. It's when you're competing against a guy, it's not necessarily always the best guy wins, and that sounds like a horrible attitude to have, but it can be the truth. I mean, if I went into a situation and I was competing with a guy and I didn't necessarily get the job over him, but I saw that I was better than him, well, then I was lying to myself or not. I mean, whatever. But, that's what built my confidence. That's what kept me going. I could watch football on Sundays, and I just knew I was better than people who were out there long snapping. I knew it. I believed it. And like I said, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's true or not, but I believed that. So it kept me going. It didn't make me feel crazy for trying it for 3 years, trying to, make a team. And, that's what kept me going.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you just brought up, I mean, you saying that, I don't think the right term is, like the whole like fake it till you make it type thing, but it is. I mean, there is something to be said about that. It's like, there's politics and everything in life, and from my eyes, it's like you're really the only one that will, tell you yes or tell you no.
Right.
No one else is gonna essentially hand you the silver platter, and at the same time, no one's gonna completely just bash your dreams. So you're really, kind of that one-stop shop. The bus stops with you, where if you want to do it and pursue it, then go and make it happen. And if you, but if you have any self-doubt, there is no chance. I mean, you've truly eliminated any opportunity that you would have if you don't think that you can do it.
No, absolutely. And whenever I say, fake it till I make it, I mean, what I meant was, in long snapping competitions, I mean, coaches trust their guy. You get a long snapper out there, you trust your guy, you have all the trust in the world in him, you're not going to change. Even if one guy is a little bit better than him, you don't know what that guy's mental makeup is, for a game-winning snap in the playoffs or something like that. You don't know, but you know what you've seen already, so you're going to stick with what you've got. And that's why it's so hard to get in. And that's also why it's, a pretty stable position for the most part.
100%. Yeah, and that makes sense too. I mean, if you're an NFL coach or GM, why fix something that's not broke? And if you have a guy who didn't have a mistake last season, why would you ever consider a change? I mean, you have enough on your plate to worry about and think about. Why would you make a change? And like you said, that's why there's so much stability there. And I think I mean, it sounds like you were smart enough to realize that going in, and you understood the struggle of getting into the NFL and that job and what it would be like. So that's awesome. So I'll tell you one thing that's cool. I obviously looked over your resume and who you are before we did the podcast, and something that jumped out at me is that you've run the gamut. You've been on a lot of teams. You've been on the best teams. You've been on not so great teams. And something that we talk about all the time on the podcast is this mindset of champions, mindset of winners. You've been in camps, in locker rooms with the Patriots, with the Cowboys, with the Jaguars, and the Browns. You've been on great teams. You've been on horrible teams. What can you say as someone who's had that plethora of experience? What is the difference? Obviously, talent's a difference, but it's a salary cap league. There's great players everywhere. Jaguars, for example, 2 years ago, they go to the championship game. Last year, they didn't make the playoffs. They're horrible. So what have you seen as the mindset in camp early on of the championship teams versus the teams that are horrible?
To me, I think it's ownership by the players. For instance, you said with the Patriots, when I was there, I mean, that was Bill is obviously Bill. I mean, he's running the show, but he gives ownership to the players, and the players take ownership of the team. And the leadership that is built from that, I think, is the biggest difference maker. In short.
Yeah, because they've been there before. They know. They know they have it. Like you said, it took you. You felt so confident because you had said, "Listen, I know I am as good as these guys or better than these guys." Because you got into camp, you grinded out, you felt it. If you're the Patriots, you won the Super Bowl last year, and they felt that way for a decade now. So they thought, I've either won the Super Bowl or been 2 plays away from winning it every year for the last decade. So, and they're losing a couple guys here and there, pieces, but they know they have the core still there. So just that ability to say, I know we either are very close or we have it, one of the two, and knowing that legitimately is a huge, it's a gain. Now, something else that really interests me in you is not only have you been a part of these great teams and bad teams and whatnot, but you are currently in what I think anyone looking on the outside would say is the ascension of the Cleveland Browns from the joke of the league to what everyone hopes and thinks is obviously outside of Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore is going to be a playoff team and a very good team. And it seems like, I mean, just Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham now, just the swagger and the confidence of the team. Tell us about that transition and the mindset change in the locker room and just what you have felt and you've seen.
Well, I mean, it all goes back to just what I said about having that core of players who take ownership of the team, and where we're transitioning to that right now. I mean, it's evident to me. I see it every day. There's an excitement in the locker room that hasn't been there since I've been here, and it's really cool to see that transition because, like you said, I've kind of seen it already there. I've seen it where it's not there at all. I've kind of seen teams in the middle, but I would never really stuck around long enough to watch the change happen, and it's really cool. I mean, guys are excited coming to work. Guys are more motivated than ever, and we are built like all our guys are young now. So like when I was with the Patriots, Tom was late 30s. He must have been 36 or 37, maybe 38. And, he was already the guy, watching Baker really transition from a college guy coming in and turning into that kind of guy in the beginning stages of that is really cool to see. I mean, it's clearly becoming more of a player-run unit, a player-led unit than it has been in the past, and it's awesome to watch.
I mean, it looks like it from everyone. I mean, everyone watching, it looks like it. It's incredible.
Yeah, Charlie. Switching gears a bit, you've seen, like David mentioned, you've seen a lot in I would say maybe just your first half of your NFL career. I'll throw it out there. I know you got a lot left, so how are you doing that? The longevity. People go back and they say the NFL stands for not for long. How are you optimizing your performance on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, both philly, spiritually, mentally?
Well, I mean, for me, it's people like kind of joking that, long snappers aren't really a job that requires a lot of athleticism. And that's true. I mean, it's definitely not a job that requires you to be the most athletic person in the world. However, I do try my best to stay as athletic as possible without I'm getting older. I'll be 30 next year, but like it's something that I try to run. Me and Con, we go out and run routes and stuff like that. And it's something I try to keep doing because I've talked to older guys. I've talked to like Josh McCown, for instance. He's 40, and I've said, what is it you do that keeps you moving the way you do? I mean, he moves pretty dang well for a 40-year-old. And, he just says, never stop. I mean, take a week or two off of the season, let your body recover, but don't stop moving. I mean, you take too much time off, you never get back to where you were. The aging process just doesn't allow you to. So for me, it's just I try to stay moving as much as possible. I listen to my body. If I feel like I'm about to pull a hamstring, I stop. I mean, I'm just not young enough to push through those aches and pains anymore. But I do a lot of like yoga. I do a lot of nutrition. I mean, I'm big on my nutrition.
I was gonna say, yeah, Char. Talk about your nutrition? Like, are you a gallon of water type of day guy, or what are you eating? What are you putting in your body?
I sure as heck am a gallon of water a day type guy when I'm in Florida. I'm probably pretty close to it when I'm up here in Ohio. But no, I try to eat clean. I give myself a day or two on the weekends to, not think about it as much, but still try to make healthy choices. I'm really big into, this probably sounds like, horrible for most people to do, but I count my calories a lot. So I'm at 3,800 calories a day on my workout days, and that's strict, and I try to keep my macros in line. So certain percentage of protein, carbs, and fats, and I try to keep that all within a pretty decent range so it's consistent. And that's honestly, that to me, I enjoy working out so much that's definitely the most challenging thing I do as far as trying to keep my body right.
Yeah, and try. I mean, obviously knowing you, I do know that you enjoy that stuff. Is it a continuous learning process for someone even like yourself? Like you said, you're obviously you kind of know your body, your job in terms of the position and what the NFL, what it requires. But is it a continuous process that you're trying to kind of learn yourself and more self-discovery, or are you kind of really just trusting the nutritionists, dietitians, those around you?
There's definitely a lot of trust involved. I mean, we have a team nutritionist, Katie. She's awesome. She's the one who sets up these guidelines for me as far as how much protein and calories and stuff like that I should be having every day. But I mean, as far as how hard I can push myself, I mean, I'm learning my body every day. I mean, it changes every year. I feel a little bit different, and it's something that I'm just I'm always trying to stay on top of. I'm the type of person who I just want to challenge myself all the time, and over the years, like I said earlier, I've learned there's certain points where I've got to stop. So that's been the challenging part, and just learning what feels right and how my body's supposed to feel going into a training camp, going into a season, what it's going to feel like throughout the season, and what aches and pains I need to worry about and which ones I don't. That stuff, I mean, that just never stops.
100%. Char, you said, you mentioned challenging yourself. That's something, I definitely know all three of us, you, David, and I share, which is, we have these personality types where it's just constantly driven, can't ever be doing enough. People listening, to them, you've achieved the highest form of success for your position. I mean, there's 32 of you, and you are arguably the best of those 32. So, I mean, you've literally reached the absolute pinnacle. And I know personally that you have some goals in terms of, all pro and Super Bowls and things like that. But how do you keep your edge? Is it, challenging yourself? Is that something that you think about, or it's just intrinsic?
I think a lot of it is probably intrinsic, but it's something that, I just never really feel like I'm a finished product, and I guess that's what I mean by the intrinsic part. I don't know how to explain that to somebody else. I feel like that's something that I have. I just never feel like I'm as good as I can be. I always feel like I can get better at something. That's just my mindset. like right now, I mean, not every snap is going to be perfect, but I want it to be. So those are the kinds of things that just kind of keep me driven every day.
I was going to say, like, what's one thing, Charlie, that you're working on today, or this week, or this month, or this OTA? What was one or two things that you specifically were challenging yourself with?
I'm always trying to get more accurate. I mean, like I said, you can never be accurate enough, in my opinion. That's just something I'm always trying to do. The one big thing for me has actually been, without getting like overly complicated into long snapper lingo, in layman's term, I'm just trying to get my head up and get into my blocking steps faster. So I'm trying to finish my snap with a shorter follow through to get my head up faster and just get into my block better. And hopefully that will, lead me to become a better protector.
100%. Yeah, Charlie. So I was, like I said, when I kind of read about you and I knew you played for the Browns, I wanted to ask you kind of one specific question, which is, I played for Ohio State. So the pride in Columbus for Ohio State football is just live or die massive. And I was talking to my boss, who is a diehard Buccaneers fan. And he comes to my office all the time and we talk about Buccaneers football, and it's almost always negative. Just, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe it again. And I'm finally going to cancel my season tickets this year. I can't do it anymore. And it's just constantly. And this being in Columbus for as long as I was, and then I was in Tampa for a couple of years, went to Denver for a couple of years. I was there when we won the Super Bowl, and I'm back in Tampa. And something I've told him, and what I would say is just, there was something about playing at Ohio State, and I think it's the same thing in Denver, and I think the same thing in Cleveland is that the people on the team, or at least the guys that get it, they realize that they're playing for something more than themselves. Is the attitude of the guy who owns a truck or a guy who works in a meatpacking plant in Cleveland, his attitude, his day-to-day life, how upbeat he is for the week or even the year depends in part on how good Ohio State football was, or in Cleveland, how good the Browns were, or how good the Broncos were. And anyone who spent time in Cleveland, Ohio would tell you people in that city would trade one Super Bowl for 7 World Series, for 7 NBA championships. So you've been in a lot of cities, a lot of teams, Cowboys, Pats, Jags. You play for UCF. Tell us about that in an NFL locker room, because Connor and I have not – Connor was in the league a little bit, but we've never been on 53-man rosters. Tell us about that. What's the difference between the cities you've been in where guys get it, guys don't, and how much the community buy-in matters to some players, some teams?
I mean, the community buy-in is huge. I mean, we all realize, obviously, without the fans, we're nothing. We're not out there doing anything. If people were interested in it, we wouldn't be doing it. But, here in Cleveland, you can tell that there's just, I don't know how to put it into words, but there's a buzz about the city. There's a buzz about these fans that just, they live Browns football. And we all know that, like you were saying, they would trade 7 World Series for 1 Super Bowl win. I mean, they get hyped about the Cavs, they get hyped about the Indians up here, but the Browns, this is a Brown city. There's just something about, playing in a city like that really does get you more amped up. And from going from, I grew up in Tampa, so I know how the Bucs fans are. I mean, it's kind of fair weather. I mean, I grew up a Bucs fan. I grew up whenever they won the Super Bowl. I mean, I was a diehard. And, whenever they kind of started, slumping a little bit, I wasn't as invested. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if there's the beaches are down in Florida. I don't know if people just get lost doing that. I don't know what it is, but up here, I mean, it is football, and you're right. I mean, I can remember hearing when we were going 0-16 a couple of years ago, people screaming from the stadium. You're ruining my year. And it's just like you feel horrible, but. Shoot, as a long snapper, I'm sitting there. I'm like, what do you want me to do, man?
Well, you know what I think it is, Charlie. I think it's.
I feel like I'm snapping well. I don't know what you want me to do, but so it's awesome. It's exciting. It gets you way more pumped. The motivation factor goes way up. It's going to be really cool to see.
I think part of what it is, I think it's an us versus them mentality, and I think that the people in Cleveland really feel like because of how industrial Cleveland and Pittsburgh are, that they really felt like this is us versus them. The Browns are us. And the hard workers, the people who worked in the factories, the steel mills, whatnot in the northern Cleveland area, and when they go play the Bengals, they feel like this is us versus people in Cincinnati. This is us versus people in Pittsburgh. And they take such pride and ownership in that they feel like they are losing. And I think in Tampa, when I go to games, I mean, crazy enough, I've been here 7 years. I've been to a lot of Buccaneers games. I've been here for like one win ever in 7 years. I mean, and when I was in Denver, it was the same thing. Those people felt like this was them, and you just felt the pride in the city and stuff like that. And I think here it's just hard to feel that because I don't think people do identify the Buccaneers as us. I don't think the players right now. I don't think they. I mean, Connor, you're here. I mean,
Yep.
I don't think we feel like they are part of our everyday lives. Where the Browns. I mean, my dad is a Browns fan. My dad's from Youngstown, lives in Columbus, diehard Browns fan. I mean, he wouldn't miss a game no matter what. And doesn't matter how many games they lose, he's not missing a game. And he'll tell you stories about dime a beer night when the Steelers would come into the stadium and the Browns, and they would just drag out fights with Bernie Kosar and all this different stuff, and the glory days. And I think it was the Memorial Stadium or something like that on like the lake, and how a big giant steel stadium and how cold it was.
Municipal Stadium.
Yeah, Municipal Stadium. It was the Browns. Yeah. It was the Browns and the Indians. Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, something special about it. I think it's a special place, special time, and crazy enough, I really feel like the whole country, if the Browns make a run in the playoffs, the whole country would go psychotic.
100%.
It'd be crazy. Everyone would be cheering for you guys because everyone in America loves an underdog story, and there's no more underdog than the Browns.
It's funny. I actually saw like a Patriots fan like tweeting out saying, tweet out to the Browns fans saying, "Enjoy it now because in a couple of years after a couple Super Bowl wins, everybody's gonna hate you." And I was like, that's hilarious. Everybody's like kind of sick of the Patriots now, but it's probably true. But no, I mean, it's funny you say that there's like an us against the world mentality because one of the most popular shirts I see up here, it literally says Cleveland against the world. And that couldn't sum up the mentality up here any better. I mean, that's 100% it.
I love it. Char, switch gears a little bit to dive into some stuff. I know we talked about challenging yourself, always getting better. I know that you are also pursuing, as well as everything on the football field, outside of the football field. I know you put yourself back in. You're going after your MBA right now. I know we have had conversations in terms of life after football. Talk to us a little bit about that. For folks out there that are listening, obviously, we always kind of say is like the one title every athlete will kind of have is former in front of their name for one reason or another. Sports just don't last forever. So, why are you, going back, getting your MBA? Why are you putting yourself, you have a kid, a wife at home, another one on the way, you're snapping every day. Why are you making the investment into your education?
It just kind of goes back to that mindset that, you're never a finished product. I'm always trying to just learn. I enjoy learning. I'm just always trying to improve myself. And I know for me, football's great. I hope I play 10, 12 more years. But the reality of that is that's going to be very difficult. So, and I'm also, truthfully, I enjoy challenges and getting an MBA, going back and doing that is a challenge for me. But I'm also, in a lot of ways, I'm excited for, the next challenge in life. And that's going to be whatever it is I decide to do after football. And so I'm just trying to get a leg up on that. And, anything I can do to improve myself, to, improve the life of my family, which is a huge motivator for me. I'm going to do it. So that's really all it is. It's just trying to self-improve and have a better life for my family.
100%. And you kind of just talked about it, improving the life, whether you're a football player or as a family. So, Char, what would you say is the toughest part of your job as a football player and then as a father?
The toughest part, those are two of the things. The toughest part about being a football player is just realizing that you're there for a reason in a way. I mean, we talked about confidence and everything like that, but there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be things you can do to improve, and you just have to go back and realize, like, I'm where I am for a reason, and that just kind of gives you the trust in yourself to kind of believe that you can do it. The toughest part about being a parent, oh gosh, the lack of sleep.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a no-brainer. Lack of sleep. Yeah. For young kids,
definitely
anyway.
the lack of sleep. We're starting to get past that now. We're starting to sleep better, but like you said, we have another one coming, so I'll be going through it all over again.
Charlie, we asked on the podcast, we asked a couple of the same questions to every single person to kind of get like a stockpile of just interesting answers for the same question. So, what is the movie that motivates you in the locker room, in the weight room, and just in life in general? If you need motivation, what's your go-to movie?
Oh gosh, I have a good answer for that, and for some reason I'm not thinking of it.
Even better.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm gonna go. Remember the Titans. Actually, that
Nice.
for me,
Literally just got
We got that last week. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie pumps me up. I don't know why.
All right, same question, but song. What song motivates you in the weight room and just in business or in football in general?
Oh, there's a ton of them, but for some reason, Thunderstruck by AC/DC's coming to my head.
That's right.
I know
That's
why.
right.
It's
Yeah.
because that's my first team was the Cowboys, and that's their like run out the tunnel song, and
Nice.
it used to get me so hyped.
That's the same one for the Lightning here in Tampa, and then that was the one in Varsity Blues, right? That was
it was.
Yeah, and plus AC/DC. Dude, I had an AC/DC CD, like old school CD. I rocked that thing so. It was an AC/DC live from like Wembley or some crazy. It was just like every day I listened to that thing. It was the best. Thunderstruck's fantastic.
Thunderstruck is.
Yeah, that was one of the first CDs I ever owned. Actually, I don't know if it was live. It wasn't live, but it was an AC/DC CD. I can't remember which one.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they even make live stuff anymore, but live AC/DC CD was like amazing. Back in Black and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Charles, same thing in terms of reading your book. You know, what have you read lately that motivates you, or something you recommend?
Oh gosh, well, lately I've been trying to learn about investment real estate. So I've been reading a lot of books about that. Oh gosh, that's been like the last year what I've been reading besides textbooks. There is, I'm trying to think of the name of the book. I cannot think of it. Gosh dang it. Screw up your podcast right now.
Dude,
No, you're not. The whole goal is to be real. The more real, the better.
I'm actually trying to look for it on my shelf, and I cannot, because I can't remember the name of it.
Everybody has these big, huge, influential answers on this question, and I think if you were to ask me what mine is, it would be "Oh, the Places We'll Go" by Dr. Seuss.
Nice.
Believe it or
Yeah,
not,
that's right. Nice. Yeah.
That's actually
simple, sweet,
really
simple,
awesome
to the
movie.
point.
Yep, I love it. And
Yeah.
It's This Is Water. That's
I've heard that's amazing.
This is water.
It's short and sweet. You can read it in like an hour or two. That's the name of it. I was looking for it on my shelf. I couldn't find it.
I heard someone talk about that on, I think, Joe Rogan's podcast the other day, I think.
This is water.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a commencement speech that gosh, I can't remember that. It's been a couple years since I've read it, but it was a commencement speech for a graduation, and like I said, you can read it in an hour. It's a good read.
Nice. If you could tell your high school self one thing, what would you tell yourself?
Just work hard. Everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry about the small stuff. Just keep focused on what your goals are, and everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah, that's a similar. That's what I would say too. I mean, that's kind of been similar through a lot of our podcasts. If you could tell someone who is struggling with, anything, a high school person who's struggling with depression or just who they are and what they're becoming and having fear and anxiety about life in general, what is a message from someone who has achieved the pinnacle of their chosen profession, who got cut 9 times? What would you tell that person?
Who you are and what you are is always changing. Don't take a moment in time and think that that's what your whole life is going to be. That couldn't be further from the truth. Things change, and 5 years from now may seem like a really long time, but when you look back on it, it's not. That time flies by, and the older you get, this is so cliche, it really does just starts going by faster and faster. So just, like I said earlier, keep your head down and grind.
Okay, really important question, Charlie. Have you been to Christmas in July at Put in Bay yet? Because if you have not, you haven't lived apparently. And that's on the water.
I was trying to get everybody to go because that was like it fell on the last weekend before training camp started last year.
Oh.
I was trying to get a group of guys to go over there, and it just nobody really wanted to go. But
it is the greatest thing in Ohio.
Something I heard is absolutely wild.
Yeah, it's amazing. And like I don't know how, but there's this amazing seafood restaurant there that shouldn't be there. It looks like looks crappy. It's on like a dock, or usually it used to be. And it is the best crab legs and like seafood place you're ever going to go to. And then people just go bananas. Like I think people in cold weather climates can party hardier
100%.
because they know
they never get.
They were recently out of a really crappy time. They know cold weather's coming back at some point. They got to maximize it now. So Christmas in July is very, very, very worthwhile if you get a chance to do it.
I've heard it. It's kind of compared to Put in Bay. That is compared to kind of like Key West, but up out in the middle of
the Redneck Riviera.
Yeah. It's not Key West.
Yeah, Redneck Riviera. Yeah.
No, I've heard it's a great time, and unfortunately, we didn't really hear about that place too much until after we had Jameson. So it was like, then at that point we're like, we can't go now, But
yeah, that's a good point.
We definitely have to make it over there. That's something I'm doing before we leave here.
We'll find a way to sneak find some time to sneak away.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Awesome. Charlie, very last thing, my man. What has been the best moment of your life thus far? A, and then B, what is your ultimate dream?
Best moment of my life got to be when my son was born. Well, that's been scary. So it was terrifying. But I guess other than that, career-wise, I got to say it was lining up for my first regular season NFL game. We were playing the Jets in New York, and my wife was there. A lot of family members were there, and it was just a big moment for me because I'd been cut so many times, like we'd said, and it was huge. I definitely couldn't hold back the tears. It was crazy.
That's super cool.
It was big.
Unbelievable. And Char, what's next in your chapter? What's the dream?
For me personally, the goals are, I'd like to go to a couple Pro Bowls, win a Super Bowl. After that, after football's done, it's be the best dad, be the best husband. And I don't know exactly where my career is going to take me. I think I'm going to dabble in a couple different things, but it's going to be successful no matter what I do, and that's kind of just always the goal for me.
Hey man, Super Bowl is in your home state 2 years in a row, so you could win the Super Bowl in your home state. It'd be pretty cool.
I was talking to my mom. I was like, "How crazy would that be if we were in Super Bowl in Tampa?" And she's just like, "That would be. It would be crazy."
I don't know if the city could take that. Browns fans for the Super Bowl. This city is city. We got. I don't know the infrastructure. We got to build it up. Yeah, we have to somehow get some more beer shipments in here. Some Coors Light flowing down here. Hard.
Very hard.
It's funny. Every time we play there, I never realized how many Browns fans were in Tampa. But every time we're there, that place is packed full of Browns fans. Those fans travel well.
The amount of people
because they're all leaving Cleveland.
Yeah, the amount of people that would drive. The amount of people who would drive down here for that game, it would be insane. Just absolutely crazy.
It would be.
Yeah.
Charlie, cannot thank you enough, my man. You are definitely a huge inspiration to all those out there, especially all the young ball players, those within sports business, and those who have aspirations to go beyond the game of sport in any aspect. So one of my best friends. I know you're an incredible father, and you are the pinnacle of your position in the entire NFL. So we cannot thank you enough for sharing everything you have here today.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie.
No problem, guys. Oh, sorry about that. No problem. I kind of cut you off there, but I appreciate you having me. Actually, the talking was good for my jaw. I got all the Novocaine out of there, so I'm not feeling any numbness anymore. So,
Nice.
So I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, Charlie.
Love it, baby. Go Brownies.
No problem, guys. Talk to you soon.
Later.
Bye.
And that's today's ticket. Remember, where you're at today is not going to be where you end up. We hope podcasts like this help you find your ticket to health, wealth, and happiness. If you like what you heard, punch your ticket with our team and follow us at Ticket Productions. Until next time, get up, get moving, and make a positive impact on today.